Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here we are at Madison Square Garden. It's time for the main event of the evening. In this corner, standing at a svelte 140 pounds, the bearded weirdo, the kitty cat of karate. He hails from just outside of Chicago, from the great city of Aurora. Give it up for Mr. Meow Meow Softpaws, Kyle Kinane. And in this corner, standing at 5'10" and a significant weight advantage over his opponent. He hails from the south side of Fort Worth, Texas. The clobber jockey, the moose knuckle, the old camel toe. Ladies and gentlemen, Shane, the silly Billy Torres. And this fight is brought to you by No Accounting for Taste, a podcast. Hal, you're good with words. You know that, man?
I think the gym is dumb.
Did Rachel walk in the room? Of course I'm eating a Baconator.
Man, if you ain't doing CrossFit, you can get CrossFit.
You're right. A long burger's not the worst idea I've ever heard.
That's your sitcom right there as a Mr. Fix-It-All who just can't fix his heart.
We will not be defending Atlantic City.
No accounting for taste. If it's something that somebody loves, let's try and celebrate it instead of shitting on it.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, sugar booger.
Hey, you ever been punched in the face?
Quite a bit.
Really?
Yeah, a few times.
More than 4 times?
Yes, definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, oh, wait, you boxed a little though.
Yeah, I boxed a little, but not counting that. I guess the most recent time I got punched in the face was a few years ago in Portland. I dropped in on this show, and these guys, like, I had them kicked out because they were terrible. Yeah. And then they followed me to my car, and one of them got in my face, and I shoved him, and then I grabbed the other one, and I started, like, wringing his neck, and then his buddy punched me in the side of the head. And then out of nowhere, Arlo Warehouser and Randy Mendez and Christian Ricketts ran down there and grabbed him, and Arlo put somebody in a chokehold.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So that was the most recent one, and then a couple other times here and there. Yeah. I got punched pretty good.
I've been only punched in the face twice.
Okay.
And I can't imagine having to do anything afterwards.
Like defend yourself?
Or it's been a real period on the sentence of that event.
Yeah. Okay. There's a difference. I'm a big guy, so it's either nobody wants to mess with me, or people look at me and they're like, "Oh, well, like that's a guy I want to test my metal to." But most of the time that doesn't happen. I'm pretty jovial. But that's the reason we're talking about getting punched in the face today. Is we wanted to talk about a sport. It's a sport. It is a sport. It is a sport. It is mixed martial arts.
Some would say the ultimate sport.
and they would fight you. We're talking about mixed martial arts.
Copyrighted is what they would do.
Yes, they did.
Of all
and then they sold it to WME for a lot of money, I think. Right? Was that it? Who cares?
I don't know about the details of it. I
mixed martial arts today, everybody. That's what
mixed martial arts. Yeah, ultimate fighting.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, ultimate fighting, nobody's got like a gun or nothing. Oh, it's not too long. I mean, like, ultimate fighting is happening around the world all the time. Global conflicts. Ultimate fighting, I think, is really the definition of ultimate should be like how much money are you spending on weapons? And
yeah, you're like that's a.
Honestly, I think the winner of ultimate fighting was the Hiroshima bombing. I would say that's the winner of ultimate. That's ultimate. If we're going by the definition of ultimate, dropping a nuclear warhead on a city is kind of more than like, whoa, if I got an arm bar on this fella. But that's my take on it.
That's it. Where do you stand on it? You just don't like it. You have no interest in it?
No, this is where I'm. Do you have anything in your life where you're like, part of me, like, I want to object to this, except if it's on TV in a bar or something, I am watching it.
It is compelling.
To it. Compelling is a great word.
It is compelling. I don't know if I enjoy it, but I will. Same kind of thing. I absorb it. And if there's like a big fight, like maybe like 3 guys I can name in the whole sport now, I will probably watch it somewhere, but I wouldn't order it, or I'd like just look on like ESPN to see who won the fight or something. You know, like it's not.
I'd never part with any of my money for it.
No, neither would I. I at a point I would have and have, but like eons ago, like maybe when I was like 22, I would watch a couple of like big fights or something like that. But I never wanted to do it. You know, like that was not on the table for me at all.
But you boxed a little bit though, right?
I boxed a little when I was a kid, you know, like when I was like probably till I was like 12, from maybe 11 to 13 or 14, you know, for a little bit. And then my older brother and my younger brother were both into like American karate pretty heavily. And they both have, you know, applied that in.
What is American karate? You just shoot the guy if you're losing?
It's just if you lose, you just sue the guy. It's kicking and Wranglers. I mean, it was like point karate, like what you saw in the Karate Kid. I guess like that's what I guess American karate is different in some way, but that's what they took, you know. And I guess I actually ended up taking it for a little bit too, but I
just offer gis in larger sizes.
Yeah. This is basically
I just extend the belts to fit around the midriffs of American karate champs.
I will say
the fat joke.
Thanks, buddy. You're so good. I will say I was done with karate the moment my mom picked me up from it, and she was like, "We're going to the grocery store," and I was like, "Okay." And I was in my gi, and I was walking around the grocery store, and then like 2 girls from my middle school were in there, and they were like, they saw me, and I was like, "This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me." And they're like,
middle school, yeah, but at grade school, if you were in grade school and you got to wear that around, you're like, I hope somebody tries to rob the grocery store because I'll stop them. And they probably won't. They probably won't try to rob the grocery store because they see that I am
a lethal 11-year-old in the room that can just kick that. I am
in the art/deadly sport of karate. I took taekwondo because my dad was real into martial arts. My dad got his I just found this out. I was talking. My dad got his black belt in Kenpo karate, which is ass kicker karate, when he was 70.
What do you ask? What is
Kenpo? Kenpo is basically like, that's like one of the
disciplines or
it's
like
not,
variations.
Yeah. It's not Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but it's like his tests. Like I remember his tests were like, he came back from getting, I don't know, like whichever belt, not the black belt, but when I was still living at home, and he's maybe in his 50s or something. And he came back like black eye and a busted nose. And he was excited because he passed his test. But his test was like, oh, you just have to fight all the dudes in the dojo.
That's what happened.
Yeah, you just have to fight 10 dudes. I'm like, what are you doing? And then he was at a point, he was on blood thinners. He got his black belt when he was 70. And they like stopped one of the tests because like somebody's really hurt. And it was just, he just nicked his knuckle, but he's on blood thinners. So it just looked like a
Saw movie in there.
Yeah, they're like, somebody's always like, it's me, I'm on the thinners, I can't do it. But he got his black belt in Kenpo karate.
My older brother's actually like pretty good at it, and he won a bunch of tournaments and did all this kind of stuff. But I remember, so my dad, like, he took us to this place, and he was like, "This is where we're going to learn karate. It's in a strip mall because it has to be." And
yeah.
And the guy who ran it, God rest him, his name was Butch, and he was just kind of like this tough white trash guy who took karate, like learned a bunch of karate, but he would always just be smoking in the dojo and like behind the counter. They're just like, he only smoked in his chair, but there was just yellow stains above him in the ceiling right there. It looked like somebody just pissed all over. And he would just get in there and be like, all right, it's time for class. And then it was kind of like, that's what my brother had to test for his belt, like one of his belts, and he had to do like a 3-on-1 or whatever. And he won, but he was just also just the meanest son of a bitch in the room. I don't know how much discipline was applied as to him. Like, he literally stomped on a guy's head and punched another one in the neck.
That's what the fact that the word discipline is used anywhere close to, like, I think strip mall karate classes are like the MLMs of single dads in the suburbs. I think it's the pyramid scheme of single dads. Whereas instead of like having a candle party, you're like, you want to tell a few of your homo friends if they want to stop getting their asses kicked to come on in here and write a check. And that's all it is like you tell your friends and get them in here, and they make money selling discounted gis and belts. And
and the $30 a month, think of
the overhead of a dojo. Think of what you just have to rent a spot in a strip mall and then do nothing to it. Like you literally have to put up a few of your own trophies you won 30 years ago in the window.
Yeah, maybe a few pads.
Yeah, try your best to make sure all the fluorescent light bulbs are of the same tone. So it's not like the yellow one and the kind of blue one. So it looks somewhat professional. And then, make sure whatever kids you're throwing against the wall don't knock the spoons off of the TCBY next door. Because I was in Taekwondo, and I would go with my dad, so I wouldn't go to the kids' classes. I'd go to the adult classes. But it was really it was people that were there more for like exercise.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it.
But then occasionally there'd be like a guest sensei or whatever, and this was like some dude they called this guy the Dragon. He was like the fattest dude I've ever seen in a gi. He was like, all right, let me demonstrate this move. And he picked me. I was 10 because he could toss me over his fucking shoulder. Not any of the 40-year-olds that are in the class on a Saturday morning. And I
love this guy's style already.
I'm laying there like, what the fuck is this? And even my dad's like, yeah, I thought that was a bit much. I'm like, do you think? You think so, Dad?
But I guess that was like
I got out of it early.
Guys like in our age range, like karate is like the intro to like combat sport, like Karate Kid, whatever. That's how we got poisoned. Like
karate's the intro into saying "fuck you" to your stepdad at Thanksgiving. That's what karate is. There's
a comic named Ryan Darling. He tells this story, and it's the funniest thing. He talks about how this guy's dad just walked into his karate class when he was like 9, and he goes, "I'm raising a man and not teaching him how to dance." And then he just beat the shit out of the instructor. This redneck just whipped his ass, and he was like, "I think he owns the dojo now."
But doesn't that say something towards like all these disciplines and mixed martial arts? Like Ultimate Fight, MMA is okay. You trained all this way, but this guy's just like weight class. This guy's just fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And barring any illegal moves, like, is it a macho thing? Before we get to the in a personal level, I could see why somebody wants to go, oh, I want to be ready for a situation.
Yeah, that's
I
what
want to be ready no matter what goes down. But this is America, so I bought guns. That wins. That's the ultimate fight. Is a gun.
I guess you're no. I mean,
you're not gonna backflip out of the octagon after you get shot.
I don't think you will. I guess like it's very compelling.
Shoot anybody.
You're not going to shoot anyway.
I'm
not going to shoot anybody as we hear another beer open.
Anybody else anyway.
Yeah. I guess I think it's very compelling, but there's a lot of around it. Like, I don't think the discipline or the sport is as bad as some of the culture around it, but we will get to that right after a word from our sponsors now. Hiyaa! And we're back for round 2, thanks to our sponsor, Man Milk. It's a protein shake that you don't have to milk. All right, Kyle.
Touch gloves.
Yep. Here we go. I must throw it. Hey! Hiyaa.
Let's talk about some
pros and cons of this subject this week.
Yeah, I'm like you said earlier. What was the word? Compelling. The word that you used.
Yeah, because it is like I mean, I think I told you this when we thought about doing this as a subject, but like the reason they make so many boxing movies is because there's no way you have to explain that to anyone. Like in any language, in any like you could launch a fight. You could launch a Rocky movie, the last 10 minutes of a Rocky movie out into space and land on Mars in our first contact with aliens, and they would get it. Like they would understand. Like, okay, this is like it's that simple.
And they would feel threatened because I mean, you can imagine boxing an alien that got little arms, big head, nothing but a target with no reach. Horrible opponents.
We call that a tomato can.
That's our best chance of surviving aliens is showing them Rocky movies.
Just scare the shit out of them.
Look at what they do to each other. And
this guy's our best actor. We made so many of them. I think let's get to some of the negative. And I think like a big negative for me on this is machismo. Like the amount of like dickhead energy I see, and I don't think it's everybody because I've met some guys who do this and they're just normal guys who like this is like Ben Roy does something like this, right? Like, and I love
Ben
that.
Roy does Brazil. I know tons of people that do like the Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and they love it because you're just pitted against somebody. There's no riffraff about like I gotta get a team. I mean, it's some of the stuff that I like about the individual sports of. Well, I still watch skateboarding. I like mountain biking, but something like golf, where you're only get up against yourself, or in this case, you're up against one person. It's exercise.
Yeah,
nobody's trying. I mean, with the Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I'm sure I'll hear tons of it because God forbid it's like coffee lovers. You can't say the wrong thing around these fuckers, but. It's you're not trying to hurt somebody. It's just subduing somebody. It's physical chess.
Yeah, and it's like I think part of it, the negative is like it depends on the shop you're coming out of. Like meaning like I bet there's some places that they're just like we just do this, we exercise. Look, I have kids classes, women's class, like this is all like this isn't for guys.
Miyagi versus Cobra Kai. It's right there. It's right there.
So I think like we have this wideness to paint with the brush, and there are some dickheads in there. And Charlene found us a couple articles this week, and this was a proposed dwarf fight organized by MMA star condemned as unethical. And
well, what's unethical? Is it like they're not forcing them to fight?
No, he's it's a dwarf versus a fully grown man that weighs 300 pounds. Not really. That'd be a free. But that was no, I think it has to be too I think dwarf is the right word, and if not, I apologize. But
I believe they prefer little people, but dwarf is what the article said.
Yeah.
Uliana Podpelnaya, who heads the Sports Association of Little People of Russia, or SELPR, said the event's main aim is mockery. Telling independent news outlet, there is nothing serious about this. This is not a sport. This is unethical, wrong from my point of view. Well, okay, this is a whole different thing. If little people want to compete in sports against each other for the sake of the fairness and the equality,
of course.
But if you want to show it, if you want to display it, you can't control why somebody would want to view it. Much like regular mixed martial arts.
Yeah, like it's like this guy is selling on spectacle, though.
Yeah, I'm not watching. But what is MMA or UFC anyway, other than spectacle? I have noticed. I want to see these two goblins beat the shit out of each other. I want to watch somebody actively forget their own children's name for a few $1 million. That's what I want to see. That's what's happening. You can't deny. But I watch BMX riders. I watch skateboarders do shit. But the whole point for them is that they don't want to crash. This is two people going, we're going to crash.
Yeah, you're going to get hit.
Yeah,
I find it to be no more violent than like football or boxing or anything. And that was like,
it is though.
I mean,
football has helmets. This is just one person's going to beat the shit out of the other person. Even like, why do you watch car racing hoping for a crash? MMA is or UFC is just like, let's just give them the crash. Or well, I guess Demolition Derby did that.
Yeah,
but even there you get.
I know, but like, do they? But like, but like I guess what the point I want to get back to, and I know we're doing the bad right now, but like you said, you watch car racing for the crash, right? But like, I think there's
I don't watch car racing.
Yeah, but like the analogy you used. Yeah. But I think there are people who watch car racing because they love car racing, and there's and I think that person can be out there in mixed martial arts, so they may just be like, this is a beautiful way this guy transitioned into this kind of defensive pose or whatever. Like, that's certainly a possibility. I do think there are a ton of gigantic fucking meatheads involved in it who are probably giving the sport a bad name to a lot of the like. I mean, I already think it's kind of crazy and fucking insane, but like, there's probably a ton of guys out there who are just like, yeah, I don't know, I like doing this now.
Well, I think I think that's what is attractive about it is that it's the most raw form of what a battle, combat, or something, and that's what gives straight dudes confusing hard-ons. Because it's just the raw aggression that rocks them up so much.
Yeah, it gives them. We should have had Sean Jordan as a guest on this because he's he's
skilled in the art of taekwondo.
Yeah,
taekwondo.
Taekwondo. He'll tell you. He'll pronounce it.
He'll correct you. Just go say it wrong in front of him. He'll correct.
But I guess like my negatives with the sport are mostly too much fucking machismo and guys. But we can't control who comes to our shows for the most part. So I mean, I guess like if some guy opens a gym with the best intentions, he can't really control. I mean, he can kick somebody out, but that guy's gonna probably go find another MMA gym or another one. Like you can. I think it probably like. Because it's so aggressive and like aggression is a bad emotion, it might attract some people who have like some issues with that stuff.
Well, it's what are you like just as a sport? Now the sport involves being able to clobber somebody else.
Yes.
You can take martial arts with the intent of self-defense.
Yeah.
You can go like, I want to know if somebody's coming at me this way in an aggressive manner in an alley. I want to know how to handle it. This is not that. This is like, all right, you want to get the trophy and the money.
Yeah.
And this is what you can't do in this fight. So this is what you have to avoid. And so that I understand the sport from that end of it. It just that the sport is still, now you possess skills that if you're not mentally just like owning a gun, if you don't have the right mindset to walk around like, problem solver.
Like, there should be a responsibility when you're like kind of like having something for potential even protection or maybe that's a good thought. Yeah.
That's a whole different thing because a gun, you just buy one. Mixed martial arts, you still got to learn the shit.
Yeah. That's true.
You still at least got to go through the skills. And every time you're learning a new skill, you could also be taught, by the way, this is just a sport. You never want to use this. Whereas a gun is you go in the store like, I want this. And like, sign this paper. It says you're not crazy. And you're like, I'm not. And then you just get a gun. So, and this isn't anti-gun rant. I have them. I shouldn't, but I got them. The point proven. Why the fuck? I'm a clumsy drunk. I have 2 guns.
Jesus Christ.
One for each hand. Twirly. Got OCD. Can't be.
What do we do when Rachel finally just started to have pistols at dawn?
She's got one too.
Oh, is it like a cute femme fatale one?
It is.
Is
it very easy to just slip around with?
Oh God. Another issue about this is huge wage gaps for female fighters and male fighters, which is not which is something that's just across the board. Like our male producer on this show that Charlene doesn't know about makes 10 times the amount of money she does.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, 10 times of nothing is a big bag of nothing, I guess.
Yeah. He just gets more work, Charlene.
Checks in the mail, Charlene. Checks in the mail.
But no, there was like this crazy. So Dana White, who owns the UFC and like kind of brought
chick. I don't know much about the sport.
Kind of saw it into its prominence, I get, like, into its like most profitable where it is now, basically. He famously said that he would never have women fight in his promotion, which is what the UFC is. And then he's like, he's backtracked on it and been like, no, these fights are great. Some of these women are incredible, but they still just get like the top earning female fighter, who I guess at one point was certainly Ronda Rousey, but now is here they are. Was something like she would earn like close to $1 million a fight, and then but the top male fighters are earning $3 to $4 million. But she was like a massive draw for them. I'm not getting these numbers exactly right, but you get the point I'm saying. So these women are underpaid greatly for, and a lot of their fights are really popular. So that's the other thing. It's not, from what I'm seeing.
Why can't we have the little people fight each other?
I think we should.
Also, are the ring girls ring boys when it's women fighting?
You know what, Kyle?
That's the only way I'll participate in this. Is I'll walk around.
That would make me the happiest I've ever.
I'll pack my Dave & Buster's into a little tiny Speedo. I'll hold up round 3. Watch it.
Your Dave
check
Buster's.
It out, nerds. That's what I call my Jennies. My Dave & Buster's. My D&B's, man. Like confront the inequality that way, like a stadium full of dudes.
It would be like so much more compelling if like,
boys?
Yeah, hey, gay, just get in there, bam,
flip
bam,
flip the whole thing.
Yeah, if
that's drawing,
so that is a big issue. Don't you think that is a big issue though? But like, and this was like a thing. The U.S. women's soccer team is so much better than the men's U.S. soccer team. Like, they're actually competitive and good in the world every year.
Yeah.
And they make far less money still, which is insane. And they get TV ratings that are very high. You know, like they're all, I can't name one active male U.S. soccer player, but I know Megan Rapinoe. And that was like one of the coolest things ever last year when she took Trump to task.
I can't name an active, there's Pele and the kid who died from ladybugs. That's all I know about soccer.
You mean Brandon Lee? That was his name.
No, he was the Crow.
No, but there was another Brandon Lee, right? Or Brandon something?
It is Brandon.
Jonathan Brandis. Jonathan Brandis.
Yeah.
Jonathan Brandis. Yeah.
He's the most famous soccer player I know. And he died.
And Rodney Dangerfield. And Jack Hay.
Yeah. So I'm not.
Lots of kicking. That's why soccer connects here.
Well, I'm never in the corner of, to use a sports metaphor, I'm never in the corner of defending sports.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all this kind of lopsidedness, I do think it's ridiculous. And I do think, who do you blame? Like, is it Dana White that doesn't pay him? Is it sponsors that don't pony up the same amount of money for each? Like, who's to blame for?
And it's
who's
also
not
like
getting
what
the money?
their value is as an individual fighter, I think, is the other thing. Like, because if you getting asses in seats, you're getting asses in seats. So like, you're going to command more. But like,
but why do I still am excited about a new Jackass movie where it's dudes not directly clobbering each other, but suggesting something that'll get their friend hurt? And
yeah, we're not better.
But I read somewhere there was like sort of there's a female version of Jackass, or like a Jackass show with all women. And I read it somewhere how it was described, like society, more or less as a whole, does not want to see women get hurt. It's not easy to watch as it is like a guy. Yeah. What does dude get his face punched in? And to watch a woman do that, like, I think that inferring that it was like, no, we're supposed to protect women in society, that people don't want to see that, which clearly has been proven wrong.
Yeah, I mean, there's like some of these women are getting very big ratings. Also, there was something else I read in the article, like women, their history in this sport, like the length of time they've been doing mixed martial art is much shorter than men. So I think that's there's not as much data to collect on earnings and stuff. So that's to be fair, which we try to do the both sides thing on here, as much as we can. But
is it feminist or anti-feminist to be like, no, they should make as much money in this sport, or is it more feminist to be like, hey, or like more supporting of women to be like, hey, I don't want to see women succumb to this juvenile idea of clobbering the shit out of each other.
I would say it's anti-feminist. Anything these women want to do, they're going I think a lot of them are going in there behind their own free will, so they need to go in there.
Well, everybody's doing it in their own free will. It's what people feel like. Yeah, go for it if you want to do that.
Yeah,
I don't feel comfortable. At least with dudes, I'm like, yeah, you're an idiot. Go clobber another.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, I look at them and I judge them, and I'm like, I don't care if either one of you walks out of this ring. Like, I don't like. I just don't think I would like them. So like, I'm like being, I guess, judgy as shit. Maybe some of them are nice guys, but like,
I was at a joke about how like that sexuality is not a choice. Because you ever meet like a super cool lady and you find out she's straight, you're like, come on, you're still falling for this. What are you doing? You could be with another lady and be happy without dealing with us idiots. Well, I guess you're born that way.
Oh, Charlene, Cracker Jack producer. And you want to take
from
this one?
Yahoo Life.
Very reliable.
We'll feature Mr. Ring Boy instead of a woman wearing a bikini in a major win for equality. Also, Mr. Ring Boy sounds like a fucking power bottom if I've ever heard one.
Well, his name is Elias the Spartan Theodoro.
And he's a UFC dude, though. No, I don't want another UFC dude. I want some candy-coated.
Yeah, you want a little.
Yeah, I want some beautiful Chippendale man.
You want a little bitty. You want
Yeah, I don't want somebody that's part of the sport. I want a hired model to objectify.
Yes, like that's the thing. Is like you want like somebody. You don't want somebody who looks like a cut athlete. You want somebody who looks like an Instagram model who's in there.
I want plastic. I want somebody who just got finished at the car show.
Yeah, just to come on.
Yeah, waxing the new Toyota Tundra.
Yeah,
they're there to make ends meet.
It's like I got a busy week. Don't start with me.
He made a lower wage than the women who do it. I hope he made a much lower wage than the women who do it.
Something tells me that they probably do. We got to get to some positive. We have to do the positive side of this.
Sure.
Something exercise. People really like it. I suppose it's taught some people to only hit bags and other people who are there to be hit, maybe.
Yeah. So much exercise doesn't involve the threat of violence. So that ups your involvement in wanting to learn it. I don't think it's I think it's an extension of boxing, and you're doing it of your own free will.
Yes, and I think that's a big part of it. I do want to say this is something I did read, that it is safer than boxing, is what they're like, because there's various ways to attack someone, like leg kicks, grab their arm, whatever.
Yeah.
These people, they were saying in this article, which is like, I don't know if this is a defense of it, but I guess it shows like how much barbarism is involved in the sweet science of boxing. But these people face like more minor injuries, like cuts, bruises, and those kind of things. MMA fighters than boxers who are like concussions and like
it's only
comas. Yeah.
UFC, Ultimate Fighting is like submission of like, it's like
in wrestling,
like the chess move of like, you can't get out.
Yeah. So I guess there's a value in like, if you're going to trash it the way, like boxing, I guess is a little more lethal in the sense of the sport itself, like me in the ring, like with the rules. So I don't know if it like, I've never believed in saying one thing is bad does not defend your position. You can't be like Trump's a son of a bitch, and then someone's like, so it's Andrew Cuomo. It's like, well, that we're both wrong. So I don't know if that's like a defense of this, but I do think that there's a stink on this sport that I guess is not entirely justified in some ways.
Yeah, like I'm not voting for any former UFC fighter or boxer. Like I'm going to run for office. No, you're not.
Well, we probably think I think we can all name one or two we think are going to go for it.
But I do think that long-term effects, and again, I enjoy sports like that have risk attached to them. I'm not doing them. I'm not getting to that point myself where I participate that way. But where CTE and like concussion, whatever concussion trauma that can have, but the whole point is to mostly avoid it. Every other sport is to really avoid injury. Football, it's a contact sport, but if you get hurt, you can't play. You're trying to avoid injury. Whereas this is human nature is to avoid getting punched in the face. And so for somebody to be like, oh, this is the thing for me, I'm already like, wow, what a choice. What a choice to make.
I do think they are trying to avoid. I don't think any of them, they accept the risk that they are probably going to get hurt, but none of them are like break my arm crusher or whatever. I don't think they're like trying to get hurt. But it's a risk. But I want to say this too. It's also a fairly young sport in the grand scheme of things compared to boxing. So, and it has gotten safer as it's gone along because some of those early.
Because who's the elders of the sport? Joe Rogan?
Yeah, I'm just saying I'm trying to get to the good part of this, Kyle, and I'm not disagreeing. I agree with you, but I'm trying to do our both sides thing. It's kind of the theme of the podcast, silver linings and all of that, but I'm not disagreeing with you in my know that right here.
The theme of the podcast. You're right. You're right. And if you want to go do this and you can make a bunch of money. And it was a comedian from the 80s. I remember talking about when Mike Tyson was I forget who had the joke about you got however much $5 million, even if you lost to Mike Tyson, and a friend of his being like, shit, $5 million? I'd fight Mike Tyson. Get $5 million. Good. Buy yourself a solid gold wheelchair and enjoy it. It was a great joke. I wish I knew.
I do remember that bit. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot to scramble your eggs for life.
For sure. I'm just trying to say exercise is nice. They're very good at that. These guys are really ripped.
I'm not saying anybody who's on the PhD track and then decided to toss their marbles. That's not I'm about to be smart, but I also love this. But that's bad. People are going to get mad at me because it sounds like I'm calling all MMA people dumb. And that's not the case. The Brazilian jiu-jitsu and stuff, it is more strategy, and it does teach you to think quickly in a time of stress, which I could use. I'm a disaster. I can't make two things on the stovetop at the same time. So I do see the value in being able to prioritize and compartmentalize
and react. It's a training too. It's a discipline. So they're probably not even thinking about half of it at the time. When you see them walking in and just moving their heads and just doing all of it, they're not thinking this is what I need to be doing right now. It's just something they've moved themselves into. So there's a discipline attached to it that I can also appreciate.
It doesn't just apply to the fighting element of any time in real life of that's happening over there. Oh, this, I watch these videos of, oh, there's a car coming. Oh, I know to grab this person and move them out of the way. In a time of stress, how to react quickly and instinctively.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see the point you're making. It's like you don't freeze up most people. If somebody throws a punch at them, they just get defensive and cover themselves.
Most people don't even know that a punch is coming. That's how I got hit in the face. I got a smart mouth and zero reaction time. So I got hit in the face, and I was like, that sucks. Now I didn't learn how to fight. I learned how to assess somebody and be like, this guy doesn't like jokes. That's what I learned. Instead of I better go get a black belt. I'm like, let me just watch my mouth a little more.
That's true.
People who don't seem to have a sense of humor.
I guess that is also a thing we should point out. It's hey, if you're a person who's gotten beat up a few times or gotten punched in the face, just don't think you need to go join an MMA gym. It could often be worse for you.
Is it because there's bullies, or do you just have a real big mouth and not,
or even if there are bullies, just study hard, get out of your town. There's a way to be.
Is your mouth writing checks that your ass can't cash, as it's said?
Agreed. Well, everyone, this was the good and bad portion of the show. And guess what? In the next segment,
don't edit this. Leave it all.
In the next Seggy Waggy, Kyle and I are going to get into the ring with you and show you all of what's in our trunks.
Jesus Christ.
Here's a word from our sponsors. Blue Apron, the combat meal plan. Hey, Kyle. Hadouken!
This is still part of it. Touch gloves! Okay, well, that's our opinions on all of it. I did not mean to call MMA people less than intellectuals.
We have our issues with it.
This is my opinion, making the choice to get in the face. Maybe not that they're not smart. Maybe it's that I'm a big old candy ass.
Could be it. Well, everyone, let's hear from the people that probably want to punch Kyle in the face.
It's a good
Charlene,
lot of people.
Why don't you just let us start playing in the litter box?
Okay. First up is I'm just going to totally ignore it. First up is a text message that says, what's up, bro? MMA is goofy, but still tough. It's cool to watch at a bar, knocking a few back, but would never put it on at home. I'd definitely get my ass kicked, though.
That sums up my whole attitude.
There might be a lot more people with your position on this, like at your default setting. Then
I'm never going to say it's not tough. I'm never going to say it's not.
Yeah.
I didn't look at it, never think like, you know what? I could be a part of this. So anybody who does look at it and think they could do it, like, kudos to you.
Yeah, we definitely didn't say it was easy. So I guess that's a real thing. Yeah. If you get in there and you do that and you assume those risks, it's a rather, I don't know if I'd call it impressive, but it's probably something I would never do.
I mean, I
guess it's impressive. Yeah, I guess it's impressive.
I watch the people that wear those wingsuits and jump off the cliffs. But it's like, so I can't, like, as much as I could, it's easy to make fun of.
Yeah.
It's easy to make fun of, two dudes that just look like they're just trying to kiss each other so much.
Well,
and that's the easy joke. That's the easy joke about it.
Well, your buddy Chris might have hit the head right on the nail, whatever that saying is, of why you might have developed a dislike for it. And he says, I liked MMA when I was a kid. Forrest Griffin was my favorite fighter. Then I learned about masturbation and the two didn't pair well.
Yeah. That's a little, that's kind of a, One just kind of took the other. Started punching like this.
He developed a new passion.
Was it like the I'm curious.
Go ahead.
Exist in parallel.
Yeah, like I don't know why one stops the other.
Yeah, Chris, you might want to work some of this stuff out.
Yeah, this is not a
professional.
Yeah,
I do. It does seem like
psychiatrist, not trainer.
Honestly, though, how much martial arts was just like therapy for kids?
A lot,
like suburban.
That was like my dad's thing with us. He was like, these kids are fucking rambunctious. I need to find a way to tire them out and not let them hit each other.
I feel like it was more babysitting, like same with swim team and dance.
Babysitting and also some discipline. Also, like you get out of line, we're going to yell at you and embarrass you, and we don't have to worry as a coach or a teacher. They don't have to worry about the implications of a parent. Like I don't have to be the bad guy,
right?
Like you're hiring a bad guy for your kid.
That's right.
Yeah. But you still watch them be to your child.
Well, you don't watch them. You don't even pick them up half the time.
Yeah. Also, walk home.
Yeah, exactly.
Get in some road work while we're at that.
Okay, well, let's listen to a voicemail next. Here we go.
All right.
Hey guys, my name is Mogan, and I'm calling to give you my opinion on MMA. I don't know a ton about it, except that dudes I went to college with or am friends with like to pay a lot of money to watch the other people beat the shit out of each other. I personally don't find that entertaining. I don't think that's rad watching just two meat men just pound the fuck out of each other. I don't know. I'm much more of a competition of the mind kind of guy.
Is he trying to date us right now?
People being smart instead of just beating the crap out of each other. I don't know if there's like a because it's mixed martial arts, there is a style to it. Like people are bringing their own personal backgrounds into these things. I don't know. Everything I've seen is just these scary, overly aggressive males, telling each other they're going to kill each other. Not a fan. Anyways, thanks.
Well, wow. Hearing it come out of somebody else's mouth, I realized what an asshole I sounded like when I said the same thing. Thank you for the call. Mogan, is his name Mogan?
Mogan, that's what it sounded like.
Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, a fine casino.
A name like Mogan, I think. Figured you'd know how to fight.
I would think so.
I think, there is a discipline and a strategy, and there has to be a actual mental element to this sport. There's no that was a little bit dismissive on his part. I get why all the reasons he don't like it are most of the reasons I don't like it for the most part. But we can't just dismiss that there's no actual thought or strategy going into what these guys do. Yeah, that's a pretty unfair thing of fucking Mogan.
Well, and no strategy, you get your ass destroyed right away. I think listening to that, that's what I said. Now I'm like, I talked at my ass. Again, that's why I get punched in the face, is because of how I talk.
You got to see two meat men pound each other is how we.
I would have chosen words differently.
You might not have.
But when they do the weigh-in, when they're both doing the weigh-in,
that's all theatrics and shit,
and they all try to fight each other.
Yeah,
and the showboating, I despise arrogance. Unless
it's the most unbecoming trait in a person.
If you're a pilot or a brain surgeon, if brain surgeons should act like how Conor McGregor acts.
If they just walked in
absolutely, that's the surgeon
to the OR. They were with
a three-piece suit and gold chains.
Just does this. Just does this in nurses' faces.
Got it. Or like a jet fighter pilot. You can do that. Not Conor McGregor. You're just fucking somebody else had to button your buttons for you. I guarantee it.
Yeah,
you are clueless.
Yeah.
You are clueless. You burn yourself with hot water every morning. You don't know which knob's which in the shower anymore. You only know Bob fists, I can do this. And the rest of the time somebody's got to tie your shoes. Imagine
their strategy.
Imagine just getting bopped in the nose, where all of a sudden, oh shit, my eyes are watery and I'm a little scrambled. Also, now somebody's behind you and about to put your arms in double wishbone, whatever the fuck, and think quick so that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
There is a mental capacity in there that is beyond what I've had to deal with. There's a training and a discipline there, and I will give the credit where credit's due on that.
I will say this. There is, as far as strategy goes, have you ever seen two people fighting who don't know how to fight? And it just looks bad and stupid.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you can see two people who actually know what they're doing. And there's a symmetry to it and a way that it is done and a rhythm that falls into them. It's not a safe sport, but I guess in the confines of this combat sport. Like they're like, you don't do that. This is not a thing we do as two professionals in this way. This is how you like react and move in here. You don't like, you don't hit them with the point of your elbow and those kind of things. Like that's not. So I guess there is like a
But for every UFC clip I've clicked on 300. Look at these shitheads in front of a bar.
Yeah.
So what I find entertaining is different. But I will say, imagine anything. Imagine the barrier to entry for anything you want to do is get punched in the face and then come back tomorrow to learn the next lesson.
That's a very good. And some people just aren't going to get into college, so they need to learn how to get punched in the face. It's a way out for some people.
I'm not saying that we need to find out how many doctorate degrees are amongst, but how many are in the NFL?
Yeah.
So
probably not a ton. Let's get to our lady caller. What if she's just bloodthirsty and ravenous?
Well, get ready to be disappointed.
I can't get into the UFC fighting. I tried. Really, it was just so I could fit in and hang out with my friends, but then COVID kind of nipped that in the bud anyway. It's awkward. They're like so fucking half almost naked and like fighting each other. But I would try to get through it by like imagining what they were fighting about, like some ridiculous shit. No, I don't know. Maybe I'm just jealous. I'm just jealous I can't fight or swim. I don't know. Not my thing.
Hear me out. It's like UFC, but it's one person who can't swim versus the ocean. We have a floating octagon. We drop them in, and we just run the clock.
Maybe I'm just jealous because I can't fight or swim. I feel like that. I don't know that lady, but I feel like she's really still into us having a lot of mask mandates. I feel like she was alone for most of the year.
Yeah, but does she not have like friends that like when I'm having a pool party? Can't do that either. Like the swimming's a life-saving technique, which people would argue is self-defense, which is part of martial arts, though. Do you think you're more likely to drown or more likely to be confronted by an individual in a physical manner that you will need to know to defend yourself?
Both of these, the very option of both of those, like those are my two options, is giving me so much anxiety immediately.
But but think about it. Some people that think that knowing how
defend
to fight,
myself,
people are shitty
myself.
in the world. But swimming is just learning how to defend yourself against water.
But here's
that's like saying like
water doesn't have the element of surprise usually. Like if you don't know that you can't swim.
Why do people drown if it doesn't have the element of surprise? Why do people drown?
Okay, that's fair.
They fell in some water. Surprise! You drowned.
I will say that this show has gone off the rails before, but not quite like this.
This isn't off the rails at all. This is completely on point. This is a defense of learning martial arts. Because of the same reason you should be taught. People are like, why would I need to learn how to swim? I don't live near any bodies of water. I'm not going to learn how to swim. And it's what random occasion that you're drunk at a pool party or you're near a creek or something. People drown all the time.
They do.
People that know how to swim drown. Now, more often or not, I've had a few drinks around people and I've mouthed off. And people want to kick my ass more than I've mouthed off and then slipped and fallen into some water.
I see where you're drawing. Yeah. For you, this could actually be a very applicable skill set, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm coming around full circle on why I should know how to fight. Not necessarily compete, but also I know how to swim. I'm not going in the Olympics.
I think
I got a basic skill set.
There's a value. There's a value in you learning to do this a little bit.
Is it this equal or greater than learning to drive a stick?
You're not going to slip and fall and have to drive a stick shift, though.
But somebody else might slip and fall. Then you're saving.
Like
their
if you're
life.
like I'm going to present a
my
situation.
friend just drowned. I don't know CPR. Now this is the whole tree. This is the whole tree of skills that are necessary. Do you know CPR first before learning to swim? So if you don't know CPR, but your friend only has stick shift and they're drowning.
Yeah, and then it's like Kyle. It's Kyle's car. He's the only one of us who knows how to drive a stick shift, and sadly, Kyle is the one who fell and almost drowned.
Oh boy!
So or I'm more likely I mouthed off and got knocked out. Now you don't have a ride home. But if I was drunk and mouthed off, I should have been driving home anyway. I will read. This is a long text that we have here, but I'll read the pro text. Okay, this fella. I don't think we have a name here. Says, easily my favorite sport, MMA, easily my favorite sport. I am training for a fight coming up in August. It's barely about the fight. It's about the discipline and the dedication it takes to train every day, multiple times a day, through injuries, both physical and mental. The people you train with become the closest friends you've ever had. It takes dozens of people to shape one fighter into the athlete they need to be to succeed. Weeks and weeks of training come down to 15, 25 minutes on fight night. The amount of time, sweat, blood, and tears you and your team have invested into that fight means more than the win or the loss. It looks like an individual sport, but no one gets into the cage without a vast support system and countless people invested in your success. That's right. You've got to fight for yourself, but also for everyone who has helped you get there. The victory or defeat is felt by far more people than the fighter. It's wild all that goes into one person's brief test of skill, mental and physical toughness, and athletic ability. Also, it's super fun to punch people. All right. Well, that is a
very well thought out argument and enlightening too. Yeah.
I feel like this guy hasn't been punched in the head a lot yet.
Maybe he's a good defensive.
Articulate. Well, yeah. No, that is. I guess.
I mean, there's like you don't think of like because you don't see a team element outside of a guy like in this corner during these things, kind of like being like, do this, do that. But it certainly is. I like the part where he said about like, it's about what you're putting in and not necessarily the fight itself, which I thought was kind of a very passionate way to look at it. So I can see what he's saying.
Well, I get there's these Tough Mudder races and stuff where it's just this ridiculous feat of, overcoming
endurance.
Overcoming endurance. So this guy seems like it's really so much more about the endurance.
Well, and just like discipline.
Your obstacle, the obstacle is the other individual who is putting just as much effort in as you are. Yeah. And it's the fact that
you are learning. Like if there's that many people there, they're teaching you things or you're learning. There's probably like wrestling coaches, striking coaches, and all these because it's they're all these disciplines are medleyed together into a nice gumbo of violence. But I don't.
You don't what? What don't?
I don't think that guy's perspective is represented well enough because there's so much like, we're not going to sell a bunch of tickets to these bloodthirsty jackals that way. Get in here for blood knuckle too. Like the redemption or whatever.
But then we're victims of the marketing of the sport. Mm-hmm. And this guy is inside of it and is explaining to us really what more it's about. And that's I guess as two stand-up comedians, knowing the prior image of stand-up is some guy going like, my wife, right? What is this about? Well, tampons have wings. I wish she'd fly away. We had to still go into stand-up and reshape the idea of what people thought it was.
And that is the thing I should identify about.
Brick wall.
Yeah, I do. I think that's a very good analogy in comparison because a lot of people are like, you work an hour a night. It's like, you have no idea how hard I worked and what the kind of sacrifice I actually put. I'm not saying I didn't get drunk a lot, but what I am saying is I chose not to do a thing where there was a path laid out for me.
Well, this guy talking about 15 to 25 minutes on fight night. You think that's all there is. You have no idea how much went into that. So
it's a much longer road than we're giving it credit for at the beginning of this podcast. This guy changed my mind.
The larger representatives of it are still more of the broed out element. And even the ladies still seem broed out to an extent.
Yeah. I will say, also another comparison to comedy as the more loud and salacious a person is in this sport, it seems to the more noticeable they are and the more maybe even more money they have. Which is not an uncommon thing in comedy. Not that people everyone that's doing well in comedy is that way, but there is a lot of that dumb, loud, dickhead energy does well in comedy, and it seems to do well in selling tickets in this arena from my very, very minimal perspective. But I like this guy.
Crossover.
You know what? Well, there was. Well, that's the thing. The people who are getting in, there is crossover, and it is the.
What are you good? Yeah, but there's some, and I don't know if they're good because I've never watched their act. That's what I'll say about that. Yeah,
same. I think everything.
I also don't know if they're a good fighter, so I never watched their fight. Yeah.
Everything goes through its hair metal phase, or flashy rapper phase.
Yeah,
whereas in the '80s. You weren't finding the good rock. You were seeing Motley Crue and man, I got 3 chicks on top of my motorcycle on the Sunset Strip. And you're like, well, I guess they're the best.
Yeah. And, yeah. We weren't consuming things the way we should have been consuming them, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
At the depth of it,
that's what's getting the exposure. And stand-up, that's what got the exposure for a long time until people were like, no, wait, there's whole other non-fame-seeking comedians that are doing it because they like it. And the inherent nature of this is still you're fighting somebody.
Yeah.
But it is okay, no, I'm not going to be loud. I just want to learn the different moves and see if I can outsmart somebody. That's where somebody smaller can outsmart somebody that's bigger.
Them, out-discipline them. Yeah.
Fight.
Yeah.
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 This guy who's less weight, less strength, but outsmarted an opponent.
Or just different discipline. If you excel in a discipline of wrestling and not boxing in these compared areas, how much better is your wrestling than someone's boxing or kicking or whatever?
Here we are back to Karate Kid.
Yep. Hiyaa.
It was a heart and the emotion. Hiyaa.
Well, Kyle-san, wax on, wax off this podcast. Sand the floor of your van. Well, everyone, I will say I had my opinion changed a little bit on combat sports.
Hey, just remember before you want to get into it with somebody, touch gloves, show some respect.
Yep. Get your Hadouken and your high bootians. Everybody, this has been No Accounting for Taste. Thank you, as always, to Charlene, the great producer, and the one who finds this stuff that we butcher and turn into Alpo for your ears. As always, Kyle, it's good to see you, my friend. And tune in. I was waiting for you to pick it up. You still got to die. You still got that dynamite time.
I was waiting for some cat bullshit.
Well, it's cat shit. It's not cat bullshit. It's just cat shit.
Show's over.
What you see? My little kitty cat saw a laser pointer and jumped all over the floor. Anyways, everybody, tune in again next week where we talk about the conflict, not in the Middle East, but in our hearts. Anyways, I didn't think of a topic to go out on this week. So let's just say podcast, friend or foe. Tune in again. Rate and review. 971-259-8302. Call that number and let us know what you thought of this episode. Good night, my little litter kitties. Meow, meow. I'm sorry. Hiyaa.